Hello, and welcome to Saturday Morning Cartoons, the weekly podcast that revisits, reviews, and ridicules some of the world's weirdest animated series. Coming to you from Hazelnut Middle School, I'll be your host, Dave Trumbore. What I'm doing in middle school, I have no idea. Don't call the cops. Joining me, as always, he's Sean, too cool for 7th grade. Ellis, what's up, buddy?
David, I'm doing well. How about yourself?
Oh, doing just fine. And completing the trio tonight, it's Matt, one in a million. Baron, how are you, sir?
Oh, I'm doing very well myself, David.
All right, good to hear. Yeah, those little nicknames I gave out, I didn't have some like ridiculous ones to give you guys tonight, just because this show it wasn't exactly ridiculous, not in the ways that we're used to. Anyway, it was pretty decent, and they had a lot of
I,
fun with
I
the
would
central.
I'm gonna
Yeah,
venture to say that this show was incredibly grounded as opposed to a lot of the shows that we have
yeah.
watched in previous episodes.
No, very, very different from anything we've watched before. I think. I think that goes without saying. Sean's actually going to
Yes.
walk us through. Well, he's going to introduce the show that we're talking about, and he's going to walk us through some
We
history.
we are going to be discussing the oh gosh, I don't know. I have very fond memories of this show, so I'm rather nostalgic. I watched a lot of Pepper Ann,
Hmm.
so we're going to be talking about Disney's Pepper Ann. Um, this was an animated show by Sue Rose. It aired on ABC. It ran from September of 1997 until November of 2000. Um, Interestingly enough, it a lot of the episodes that they have of this were in like the 10 to like 11-minute range. So if you watched one 30-minute episode that they had blocked, you were going to get about maybe two episodes. They did have a couple episodes that spanned like the full 30 minutes or like the 22-minute block that was allotted, for commercials and everything else. Um, but this was a Disney Saturday morning block, and the character originated from a comic strip that was published in YM magazine.
Hmm. Yeah, I don't remember this one too
Um,
much, but you
so
have fond
I
memories
just
of it. Yeah.
I do I watched a lot of like Disney cartoons like during this time, and it was very so I haven't watched the show since I probably watched it sometime during like the 97 to like 2000 era. I'm sure that it was in reruns after that. I'm positive that I watched them then. Um, I just remember having very fond memories of watching this show, and it was a lot of fun. There are a ton of notable voice actors that are in this show. It is
It is
crazy
pretty nuts.
um, how many people. I mean, I guess sometimes this is the power of Disney.
Definitely.
We recently on this we have watched a show that came out in 1980, which was Thundar the Barbarian, and so that was sort of the earliest show to date that we've watched on this podcast. This would probably be the latest show that we've watched,
Other
97 to
than
2000.
other than Liberty's Kids, which I think was in the 2000s, but that was kind of a
Oh.
one-off. Yeah, we won't be doing that again.
um, some of the people who were voice actors on this, Danny Cooksey, who a lot of people are like, I have no idea who Danny Cooksey is. He was on Different Strokes.
Yeah,
He was the redheaded um, character. He was the redheaded Caucasian kid that was on Different Strokes.
couldn't miss him.
Um,
Much like you, Sean.
Yeah,
yeah,
except the
and I,
being on
you know,
different strokes part. Yeah.
I will absolutely say that, and he was Sam McKinney on Different Strokes. I think that kind of I want to say that I watched a lot of this with my sister, like
Mm.
after school or like on Saturdays, and I think why it resonated was that probably to this point I had not seen like a redheaded character that was maybe like a lead
I
like
had a feeling.
this.
I had a feeling this was part of it, if
Um,
not the major
and
reason.
so there was a good part of it that I was just like I easily identify with this because my sister and I are both redheads,
Yeah.
and so aside from Danny Cooksey, Pam Alden is on this show, and I don't know if you know who Pam Alden is. I love Pam Alden. She was on Lucky Louie, that was on HBO. She was on just so much. She's on the Louie that's on FXX. She has been on a ton of different stuff. She has kind of like a huskier, deeper women's voice, which is very attractive. And she played the character Moose. Trying to think. Other than that, what was it? Mark played him in a couple episodes.
You're cutting out a little bit. Did
Oh
you say
boy,
Mark Hamill or did you say Maurice LaMarche? I wasn't sure who you said. You cut out a little bit.
I said Mark Hamill.
Yeah, he
Sorry.
did. But guess what? Both the guys are there,
Mark-
so either one you chose, you would have been correct.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Diedrich Bader, who people would remember, he was on the Drew Carey Show as well as Office Space. He was a character in there. James Avery,
Yeah.
Uncle Phil
There
from
he
The Fresh
is.
Prince of Bel-Air. Like, just, there are a ton. Brittany Murphy was Tank the Eighth Grader for a couple episodes. Luke Perry was on this show. There's so many different people. Alex Trebek played himself. So I mean, they managed to get a lot of like really interesting, noteworthy people to be voice actors and
Yeah,
actresses. in
they
the
got a
show.
lot of celebrities to kind of do like the cameo voices, sort of voice themselves. Also for the people that know,
Right.
kind of like also Don Adams. I had to mention Don Adams, the original Maxwell Smart from Get Smart, and he's
Yes, I
he's
feel
the
terrible.
principal in this one. And you can definitely if you spent any time watching Get Smart, as soon as the principal comes on screen. And talks for the first time, you're just like Don Adams, 100%. It's really easy to pick out because he doesn't disguise it. He doesn't do a voice. He just does his voice.
Right.
But yeah, as far as other people that you might recognize, just their names from voice acting. There's Kath Soucie, who did a lot of the Nicktoons. I think she did a lot of the Rugrats and things like that. Jim Cummings is huge. He does so many different voices on so many different things. Tara Strong, same thing with her. She just has a huge repertoire of different voices. And Rob Paulson, who we've talked about before too. So
Oh, Rob Paulson.
yeah, good old Rob Paulson. Good
His
stuff.
name is Robert
It
Paulson.
sure is, and forever will
Wonderful.
be. Yeah. So I also want to talk about I just want to name drop, since we're doing that, a couple of the actual writers of some of these shows. Some of them, they were uncredited through the series because they were just starting their careers, or they only did one episode or so. Nanachka Khan. She's known for American Dad and creating Don't Trust the Bee in Apartment 23. It's interesting that she got kind of her start with the Disney animation side of things. It's a weird start.
I'm gonna say right now,
Yeah.
based on the 3 shows that she's worked on, that's a hat trick. She's had a winning career in my mind.
Winning career. You can retire, Miss Khan. Scott M. Gimple, which people probably, it's not really a household name, but he's the current showrunner of AMC's The Walking Dead. So,
Yes.
yeah, your career can go many and varied places, from Pepper Ann Disney cartoon to showrunner of The Walking Dead. And also someone who most people probably know, Mo Rocca, apparently wrote for the
I was
show
gonna
too.
say,
Yeah.
thank you. Yeah.
That's a weird one.
If anybody is unfamiliar with him, he was a Daily Show correspondent
Right.
with Jon Stewart.
Yeah, exactly. So
So-
that's pretty much it, I think, as far as the background. We're going to get into the show, Pepper Ann, a little bit. Baron is going to walk us through just exactly what the show is about.
Yeah, so the show centers on a particular character, Pepper Ann Pearson, who was a 12-year-old girl whose emotions basically come to life in fantasies, which was kind of weird when I was watching it. I have to say it was a little disjointed, but basically the show's plots were generally typical of somebody who's coming of age, and Pepper Ann is presented with basically dilemmas, ethical, moral, and she just figures it out.
Yeah, they had this kind of gag, too, for most of the episodes. You know how The Simpsons have the couch gag at the beginning of their billion episodes? I don't even know how many they've done by now.
Yes.
Yeah, so Pepper Ann has a similar one. In the first season, I think she always finds a $5 bill or $5 under her desk. I guess as they went forward, they came up with different things for her to find. Did you guys watch any episodes where she found something other than a $5 bill? I only
Out of
saw
the
that.
out of the 3 episodes that I watched, I did not see a single $5 bill.
Oh, okay. So I saw that. I saw the original. She was just like, oh, hey, $5. And that's it. So I don't know what you guys saw. But she got $5.
No, I did not notice that.
Good times there. Are you feeling up for, I don't know, a little bit? Do you want a shortened version of the Pepper Ann theme song? I was sending Sean some lyrics offline because I was making fun of the show.
I would love to read through. So
Oh yes, please give us that.
So the theme song goes, "Who's that girl? What's her name? Is she cool? Is she lame? Oh, you're talking about what's her name? Pepper
Now, can I
Ann.
stop you right there? Because
Is
I want to give the
yes.
listeners. Okay, so Sean is doing just a very straightforward reading, a very scholarly application of this theme song, which is very much appreciated. What would you describe the tone of this music, this late '90s kind of like pop punk? How would you describe it? What band would you say jumps to mind when you hear this?
I think Save Ferris jumped into my
I don't know
mind.
that one,
Oh
so I'll
man.
go with it.
Minus like the horn section of Save Ferris. Like it was kind of was very joyful.
So it was like ska kind of minus the horns.
I
Yeah,
don't know
that's
what
what I'm
that
saying.
means. Ska minus the
So I,
horns. But yeah, it was just kind of like
it
it
means
wasn't like aggressive, but it was just yeah, it was very energetic and just very. It was a little. There's a little bit of not screaming. I don't even know how to describe the vocals of this, but
well, because like it goes like, is she cool or who's that girl? What's her name? Is she cool? Is she lame? Oh, you're talking about what's her name? Pepper Ann. Like so, it was kind of punchy like
yeah, it was
with her
definitely
name,
punchy and
but
like punched up and energetic. But yeah,
yes.
so yeah, continue. I just wanted to give people a tone
Uh,
of how to listen to this. Yeah.
I was really hoping that they would have gone with a red pepper theme because, when I think of red pepper, I think of spicy and like, because she has red hair. But yeah, I guess not.
Yeah, no McCormick's tie-ins. Missed out on that one. Golden opportunity for the spice tie-ins, and they
That's
missed out.
right.
Yeah.
No Lowry's seasoning salt
No, no
tie-ins.
product
Oh god.
placement. Oh
no.
well.
Ah, great.
Oh. Is she lame? Is she cool? Is she breaking every rule? Is she anybody's fool? Pepper Ann. Pepper Ann, marching in her own parade. Pepper Ann, she's like one in a million. Pepper Ann, too cool for seventh grade, much too cool for seventh grade. Catch her if you can, Pepper Ann. Um, I want to stop at this point. I almost want to stop at this point and just be like, if you don't know the name of this
You have
show at
not
this
been paying
point in the
attention.
theme song, you are clearly doing something else. Like they really kind of hit it over the head with this. But I mean, it's fine. I mean, it's a theme song and kind of I guess going with the idea that I had postulated in our last episode, like this theme song, uh, for me, really fulfilled its promises that it was going to make to the viewer.
Yeah, I mean,
Um,
definitely, because they just introduce like the main character, they say her name 1,000 times, and then
right.
as this is going
Well,
on,
I mean,
yeah,
well, not just that. Like, I mean, it goes with the idea, like, for these theme songs, like, if this theme song is sort of like a promise to the viewer of things to come, they do a really good job with kind of bringing back a lot of these themes because there are a lot of times where Pepper Ann, she feels out of place, like she
oh
feels
yeah,
out of sorts,
definitely.
and it's really dealing and kind of struggling with a lot of those conflicting feelings that she might have or that she does have during the show. And so I really think the one that was like when I listened to the theme song and when I read the lyrics to it, the one thing that really kind of like struck me was the marching in her own
Yeah,
parade. And like that to me was like Pepper Ann like through and through. Like she was wildly independent. Like she was very happy to go off and like do her own thing. And there were just a lot of times where, she just I don't know, she was conflicted with certain things, but she took it upon herself to be like, what is the actual problem that's going on here? Let me figure out what's going on with me, and let me be honest with myself.
I also just like the fact too that not even like the lyrics of the theme song, excuse me, but also just what they're showing on screen at this time. Matt mentioned before in the synopsis that Pepper Ann kind of like she visualizes her problems as these kind of like fantasy things that play out. So the theme song
Yes.
does this all the way, more or less all the way through. Like she starts off as sort of this like super strong and powerful looking, just kind of like Amazonian warrior, like facing down this like tribe. And
Right.
you're just kind of like, what? Because there's like this pop punky kind of like theme song going on, and they're saying her name over and over again, and you're just kind of like, well, what is this? And then they change animation styles even throughout the intro too, which I thought was kind of cool because
Yep.
they have there's a lot of imaginative play with the animation style, the music, and how she kind of like interprets things. And I like that, and I thought it, like to Sean's point, that played in very well with the rest of the series too.
Like, let me ask, like, did either of you guys watch the Disney show Lizzie McGuire?
Nope.
I did not.
No,
No?
that's a big no.
No,
No? Okay, great.
no.
But I
Lizzie
am aware of
McGuire,
it. Yeah.
Okay,
Sean.
Lizzie McGuire.
Sean.
Lizzie McGuire, yes.
No. I didn't watch it.
Matt didn't watch. I didn't
Thank
watch
you,
it
Matt.
either, but Matt also didn't watch
Okay.
it. Yeah.
So Lizzie McGuire had a lot of moments in the show where the titular character would kind of like ponder what she was going to do next, and those specific interstitials were done, or those like kind of apologias, like internal conflicts that she was having, were done not in a live action sense, but they were done like as an animated character. There was like
Right.
this cartoon character of Lizzie that would kind of like, this was Hilary Duff,
Right.
that would kind of like figure out exactly what she was doing, and then she would kind of ponder that idea back and forth, and then come to some conclusion or some idea, and then she'd kind of move forward with that. This, to me, rewatching Pepper Ann felt like just the straight animated version of Lizzie McGuire. Like, instead of having those like interstitials that were cartoons, this was like the original.
Yeah. Cartoons having cartoon
Pepper Ann
interstitials.
Pepper Ann was the original Lizzie McGuire, instead of just like going off into these like specific cartoon interstitials. It just continually allowed Pepper Ann to kind of evolve into these really fun kind of like fantasies that she had about what was going on with her life, what was the conflict,
Yeah.
and then she kind of battled those things out within her fantasy.
Yeah, I think a good point, since you're comparing it to like live action
Sean,
shows. Matt and I were talking about. Well, Matt, we can talk about this because you and I were talking offline about like other shows that this reminded you of, and you came up with a good one. I think we combined a couple.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, what do you think of it relating to Doug?
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, the
it was-
animation style is super similar, and the two things I pointed out to Dave offline were the animation style, in particular, the hair, and also the like facial structure. You know, that kind of like rounded jaw. You know, and then also, you know, just basically like the like general background style. I mean, it's very like Doug funny centric.
Yeah, and like the clothes and
Okay.
stuff too, kind of like the ballooned out, the big baggy clothes. Yes, it was part of the fashion and the style at the time in the 90s, but also
Yeah.
just as like a drawing style, like everything is very just kind of like billowed out and it's very similar. I said
wonder-
that, and then yeah, go ahead.
I wonder if Pepper Ann was sponsored by Jenko Jeans.
Jenko
Oh,
jeans
no.
with the chain. Yeah, absolutely. Jenko jeans.
Oh, boy.
Bringing it back. Pepper Ann and Jenko jeans together again. The other one that I said was similar. I was thinking Hey Arnold, just because of the character itself. Like Doug, I don't remember that well, but I don't think Doug got quite as neurotic as Pepper Ann does. But Arnold definitely did, if I remember correctly. He had some of these like weird fantasies too, that he would kind of like just daydream stuff, and he would be a different character,
Yeah.
and he would be in different places. So Hey Arnold was sort of like the male version of Pepper Ann. I could see that.
Well,
Okay.
also, Dave, I mean, it's totally right that you say that because, you know, in Doug, he used to fantasize a lot.
Yeah.
And, like, you know, I mean, one of the things that comes to mind is, you remember the band Beats?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah.
Love the Beats.
So he used to, like, there's, like, one episode where him and Skeeter, like, record a track, and, you know, 80% of that episode is Doug fantasizing about being famous. So there was a lot of fantasizing in that show, as I remember, but you know, at the same time, in a lot of the other episodes, it was maybe like 10 or 15%. It was kind of like a daydream thing versus like, you know, the crux of the show.
I'm gonna put you guys on the spot. Can you remember any of the songs and the lyrics from the Beats?
Oh,
Banging on a trash
Oh,
can.
nice.
Killer tofu.
Killer Tofu is so good. E-I-E.
Well, Doug's song was banging on a trash can, strumming on a street
Yeah,
light.
that was Doug's song though, right? That was his
Yeah.
like his own song that he wrote.
I think Killer
Yeah, well,
Tofu. Killer Tofu is the only song that I remember.
Killer
from
Tofu
Beats.
is so good.
So,
Oh, and just as a
but,
tease, dear listeners, we're not just teasing and talking about Nicktoons just for funsies. We will get to them eventually. We're still kind of working out how we want to tackle that because it's definitely a big block of cartoons. This would be kind of like with Pepper Ann, moving away from the network cartoons that we've been talking about for weeks upon weeks now, and moving into more of the cable cartoons. It's kind of like a shift, a tonal shift, a programming shift. So we want to figure out a way to do that. But yeah, we'll talk about them. Don't you worry. You settle down out there, singing your beat songs.
We are very excited to talk about Nicktoons. This was a big part of all of us growing up.
Definitely.
So I mean, I could definitely see Pepper Ann as sort of being like a female Doug, minus the minus the journaling.
Yeah, that's true. It was before blogging, thank God, but definitely minus the journaling. Yeah, almost like Pepper Ann was like a step before Daria. Like Daria was a little more, a little older, but she definitely had those neuroses too. It was just kind of like an older setting for the MTV crowd, not the Disney crowd. So it was kind of like an introductory drug up to Daria. Once you got through Pepper Ann, you go to Daria after that.
It's like I feel like a lot of Pepper Ann was so whimsical, so hopeful, and so like energetic, and then I feel like Daria was just sort of like,
oh man, it's such a drag.
Understanding what no, not a drag.
No, but I mean, like everything very much came out of the alternative movement. So yeah,
but it was understanding like sarcasm.
Yeah, definitely.
And understanding like ironic detachment, and like
I mean,
how to. Go ahead, Beth.
Yeah, I was going to say, to jump in right there, like Daria was really kind of, I don't know, maybe not really capitalizing on, but like sort of encapsulating the MTV crowd.
It absolutely
of that
was.
Year.
It was all just alternative music. It was very much like a Nirvana scene kind of thing.
Exactly.
It was very much
exactly. It was the post like popularity of music videos, but a music industry that was moving into something else. And Daria was like kind of a lot more ironic or, well, really cynical of the industry.
That's a good way to describe it.
But it just kind of, I mean, it was really, the animation style was exactly the same, but at the same time, like, the message was very similar. Like, Daria was a more cynical version of Pepper, so, different sides of the same coin.
Yeah. But speaking of Pepper, we've talked a little bit about her. She doesn't exist in a vacuum in this show. She's got a lot of people around her, both antagonists and people that help her out. So, let's talk a little bit about some of the other characters. Like, I don't know, is there anybody that spoke to you guys? Anybody that reminded you of somebody you knew growing up? Anything like that?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think what you just hit on was that there were a lot of people that I knew growing up that reminded me of characters that were in Pepper Ann. The Pepper Ann had like two best friends,
right.
Nikki Little and Milo.
Kamalani, I guess. I don't know if they ever even say his name.
Yeah, it was Kamalani, because I think definitely in the episode that Matt watched, she says Kamalani a lot.
Oh, really? Okay. Because they didn't introduce any other names than the one that I watched, except for obviously the title character. So.
Oh my gosh, they used Kamalani in the Crunchpot episode. They used Kamalani all the time.
And the skater guy totally reminded me of Skeeter.
Yeah, I could see that. Yeah, definitely.
All right.
Definitely.
Yeah, I mean, totally. The animation style was the same. The attitude was the same.
Dude, there's a weird moment, though, where, like, whatever outfit he's wearing makes him look like Tummy Gummy from the Gummy Bears. He's wearing, like, the exact same, like, tunic that the Gummy Bears dude was. I was just like, wait a minute. Hold on, Disney.
Gummy bears bouncing here and there and everywhere, kind of
absolutely.
thing?
Yeah. The one and only. There is no other. But they just co-opted. They took Tummy Gummy's outfit tunic off the rack and put it on this guy for some reason, just because they're like,
sweet and sour cheese.
Yeah, boy. So we should state that Pepper Ann, all right, is 12 years old, as well as also all of her peers.
Right. Ooh, except for the cool 8th grader. That guy's not 12. He's much cooler.
Yeah. So everybody is in 7th grade, and they all go to Hazelnut Middle School. All right. So you have a lot of very specific tropes that come into those specific students. So
and the coffee must be great.
Yes. So Milo is sort of like, he is He's very dramatic.
Mm-hmm.
He's a big video gamer. I want to say in some of in one of the episodes that I watched, he was very like steeped in tradition of doing things.
I don't know what that means.
What
does that mean?
Which is very interesting. So there was an episode where Pepper Ann and Milo wanted to go trick or treating.
Okay.
And then somebody suggested to Pepper Ann that maybe as a 12-year-old, she's a little bit too old to go trick or treating.
Yeah, and that's a common theme throughout these series, throughout the episodes.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so she kind of went back and forth whether or not she wanted to go trick or treating or whether she wanted to just, kind of just ditch that tradition altogether and do something completely different.
Yeah.
But Milo was like really ramped up. He was just like, I love this idea. This is something that I look forward to. Like, I always have a blast. And it was just very fun to kind of see him like, kind of getting excited about something that I think I went trick or treating until I was like 8th, maybe 9th grade.
Okay.
And I don't know if that was like a year too long.
I mean, I'm still going. Is that weird?
That's not weird at all.
That's not weird?
It's definitely.
I'm
it's
30.
not
I'm
weird.
31, guys. Just like Halloween's on the 31st. I figured that's fine. After this,
Dave,
maybe
it's not weird.
Okay.
All right. I mean, here's the thing. I'm jealous of you because for the past 2 years, I have passed out candy at my house, and I think the first year I got 3 kids that came.
I literally got one last year. One kid last year. And even his brother was with him, and his brother was just like, meh, he didn't want to walk up the steps to get this giant bowl of candy that no one else had touched. Pissed me off, and then I got diabetes because I ate all the candy after that. So
I ate all the candy.
Thanks, kids. Bunch of dicks.
Well, fun fact, if you have leftover tons and tons of candy, just bring it to work and give it to all your coworkers.
Yeah, exactly.
Because they will eat it. They will eat at least 3 pounds of candy within one day.
Guess what, kids? That doesn't work when you work from home and are a freelance writer because you will just eat all that candy. So fair warning. Fair warning. Ah, boy. So we're at about the halfway mark here. I want to get through a couple more of the, just kind of the major characters, the ones that have the biggest roles, and then we'll get to talking about the episodes here. Yeah.
Nikki Little reminded me sort of like somebody who was like a yoga instructor.
Okay, yeah, I could see that. Very just like laid back. Yeah.
Very, very calm, very like serene.
Yeah.
There was a couple like supporting characters that they had. Trinket. She was just sort of like the traditional rich girl. You had a very fun foreign exchange student, which reminded me of the foreign exchange student from The Simpsons. Pepper Ann's character was called Dieter Lederhosen. There was an airhead that was just sort of like a goofball named Sissy.
Yeah, there's one that I didn't give you this one on the list because I just saw it on the episode that I watched today, but it was this creepy kid with pink eye, and they just called him Pink Eye, which I loved because that reminded me of like the nicknames that you give kids, like your friends or otherwise in school, because you like see them, something happens to them one day, they have pink eye or they have like cauliflower ear or something crazy, and you just always remember them from that. It's like we just boil them down to like that one specific thing, and it sticks with them. It's so weird.
Dave, how long were you known as Pink Eye?
I was known as cauliflower eye because I had pink eye and cauliflower ear. No, I never had either.
Is that possible?
No, I mean I'm sure it's possible to have both, but you have some
Dave,
problems.
like I know you're from Eastern Pennsylvania, but good lord, that's
buddy.
upsetting.
I don't know what that means. Do you guys remember Pete and Pete? Do you remember Pit Stains?
Yeah, absolutely.
So there you go, like that.
Yeah.
Same
but
kind
there
of
was
thing
a
like
glandular problem.
It's a glandular problem. Yeah, exactly. But it's that kind of thing. And honestly, like everything from Pepper Ann, whether it was the names of the characters, the way they acted, her thoughts, her reactions to things, because she's very like hyper reactive to things. She like over exaggerates the drama of things like, I don't know, getting a pimple before the yearbook photos. But it's exactly what we do as adolescents. It's the exact same thing.
I think that's what made this show so enjoyable and so relatable, is that like when this show came out, I think I was 17. Mm-hmm. But there were things that like there were issues that they discussed about a 12-year-old that like as a 17-year-old I was just like, oh no, like I'm still doing that. Like it's still shit that happens like to this day. Like, and I think that's what really makes a good cartoon, is that it wasn't anything that was like overly exaggerated.
No.
Like it was
I mean,
grounded
it
in
was in the
reality.
show.
We
In the show,
all,
it was. Her
yeah,
reactions are over exaggerated, but it's what people do. It's what we do in our heads.
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And so like those thoughts and those ideas that we have in our heads and the reactions that we're just like, oh, like when we tell the story later to
Right.
somebody and we're just like, well, I didn't say that out loud. I just thought that. And
Yeah,
you're just
exactly.
like the things that are in this show are the shit that we internalize every day.
Yeah.
And things that like we find to be like, kind of crazy or just very weird or like how we react to shit. And that's fine because we're people and that's how we deal with things. But Pepper Ann was fun, for the sake of the fact that like it addressed those things head on and allowed her to react in kind of like a crazy, nonsense way to a lot of these situations. And that was a blast to watch.
Yeah, and I think that's a good jumping in point to actually talk about a couple of these episodes. Before we do that, Baron, did you
Yes.
have any, were there any characters that jumped out at you one way or the other, either just memorable or reminded you of somebody growing up? Anything like that?
Really, it was Pepper.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, kind of, in a weird way, reminded me of myself because I was super awkward.
Pretty sure we all were, buddy. I'm pretty sure at least the
Oh,
three of
yeah.
us were super
No.
awkward
Oh
in high
yeah.
school. We're going to dig up
Oh
some
my
yearbook
God.
photos and put them on Tumblr. No, there's no way we're doing that.
Oh God.
Please
Oh
don't
God.
ever
I'll
do
do
that.
that.
Sean,
I
damn
I
it,
still
don't do.
I still have some
Because you can
of
find some of mine on Facebook. Why would I tell you that? Don't do it. Oh, they're so bad.
Thank God none of my photos were on social media
He's a
because
smart man.
that would take this listenership into the basement.
Oh,
Anyway,
boy.
but the
So you identified
I
with
mean-
Pepper Ann.
yes.
The
Yeah,
end.
thank
Was there anything
Yeah.
specific that you identified with Pepper Ann?
Really, it was just kind of like, I mean, this is kind of a cop out, but it was a general experience of the cartoon and Pepper, like, in her surroundings. Like, I really kind of had this, like, weird relationship to, like, middle school and high school,
Yeah.
especially, where I was, like, fantasizing about certain things, not in a weird way, but
No, just because you're bored
but,
in math class or whatever, and you're just like daydreaming about anything else.
So
Yeah.
bored.
but I loved math class.
You love meth class?
Okay,
Yeah, did you say
You
meth?
took meth class? What a great school.
Did you say what meth class did you take?
it was a progressive environment. God damn it!
Central
Anyway,
Pennsylvania has a weird education policy.
yeah, well, they focus on the end result. So Central Pennsylvania,
Yeah.
right? Am I wrong?
No,
Eh,
meth is
am
still
I
quite
wrong?
strong there. Yeah.
Am I wrong? Am I wrong? No, you're not.
Oh, that brings.
Exactly.
Hold on. Do we know if there was a drug episode of Pepper Ann? Because I missed it if there was.
There was
Oh,
not.
come on, Pepper Ann. Perfect
Oh,
opportunity
God.
for
And,
meth.
and here's the thing. I'll allow it because it was Disney.
Yeah, fair. But I mean, come on. You got that audience.
I mean, to my knowledge, there was not a drug episode.
Well-
If there was a drug episode, listeners, please prove me
Let
wrong.
us know.
I will buy
Those
that
drugs.
episode to
Oh,
watch.
okay.
I will buy. I'm not buying
Oh,
drugs.
okay.
Unlike Dave's "Go Do Drugs"
I stand by it.
message
I
that
stand
we
by
had,
it. Kids,
had
listen to
a
the
couple
Brave
episodes
Star
ago,
episode
I-
if you missed it.
I will say, do not do drugs. Just say no. Just keep yourself safe and sane.
Yeah.
Make good choices.
All right, let's jump in since there's no.
G.I. Joe.
The more you know. There's no drug episode of Pepper Ann, so let's talk about some other episodes. You guys both watched one of the shorter ones. Is that right? I think you both watched like the 10-minute one.
I watched 3 episodes.
Oh, wow.
3 10 or 11-minute episodes.
Okay, cool. You guys can
Um,
jump into the one that you both watched because I don't know anything about that, so I'm kind of curious to see what you
So-
guys watched.
The episode that Matt and I watched was all about. It centered around Pepper and Milo, and the idea was that Milo is this like reigning champion for a video game that is called Crunch Pod, and there's a tournament that is at this local arcade that they're going to, and Pepper is sort of like the cheerleader, kind of like / coach, like hype man. She is really emphatic about Milo continuing his streak of winning this Crunch Pod competition. And so she like wakes him up in the morning, like pushes him into the shower, gets him like ready to go, and then he goes to the arcade, knocks it out of the park. Like, he crushes everybody. Now, they don't really explain like how the competition is held or like how it's organized or like what the specifics of it are. But suffice it to say, like, Milo puts in one quarter and plays for as long as everybody else in the competition is playing.
So he's like a
he
pinball wizard.
continues-
Yeah.
Pretty much. Like, he continues playing, and like other people have put in quarters and have gotten game overs, and they're like, oh no, I'm out. And so they just kind of like all fade into oblivion. And so Milo wins by like a landslide. And as a result of like winning this high score, he gets a free game. And so as Milo is like kind of celebrating the fact in like a very casual manner that like he won this competition, and as he's offering like words of wisdom to the other like students and friends that are there, like Pepper Ann realizes that like Milo has won a free game. So Pepper Ann decides to play the free game, and she gets a higher score than Milo. And so that's when really like the conflict in that episode begins.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Girls and video
So-
games. Controversial stuff. Especially right now,
It's
actually.
not.
I didn't even mean to
It's-
like step in
it's
that, but
not-
holy shit.
It's not controversial stuff.
Well,
Like,
it is right now. I
wi-
mean, not on Pepper Ann, probably.
Women,
Yeah.
women can. Yeah, I know. I like, you know, the whole like girls that play video games thing. Like, you should play video games. Like, women who are playing video games are infinitely more attractive
Points.
to me
Points.
than women. Points. 100. Chris Hardwick points in your direction.
Mhm.
Like, you, like playing video games. If you want to play it, regardless of your gender, go ahead. Video games are fun as hell. That's why they're
Yeah,
there.
that's
It's
why they're there.
entertainment.
It's good
It's
times.
entertainment. I don't care if you're a man or you're a woman or you identify with some other cisgender. It doesn't fucking matter. Video games are a blast. All right? And I love video games.
Sean
And so-
says play the video games instead of drugs. I say do both,
Play-
but I mean, whatever. Either way, play video games is the moral.
play
God
video.
knows
Play
that-
video.
It made KOTOR so much relatable.
Oh no.
Oh, we did love the KOTOR.
Oh,
I had to play
yes.
that sober, though, because I had to keep my force strong. So I stayed sober.
You guys.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
We
Yeah.
totally grew up from awkward kids, right? We grew up from
Oh,
awkward
boy.
middle school kids to be awkward college kids.
Oh,
They
absolutely.
should bring back Pepper Ann in college. Let's see what she's up to in college.
I bet she's playing video games and having a fucking blast.
Dude, she probably is, but I think that'd actually be a cool series to like age it up a little bit.
Reboot Pepper
Yeah,
Ann.
Yeah.
I mean, I bet you she's majoring in women's literature and third world economics.
Dude, if she's anything
You
like her
serious?
mom, she's probably like a super feminist or something. I just got like a weird feminist vibe from her mom. Maybe because she reminded me of my mom. I don't know. That was a little strange. It was a little weird.
Oh,
all
you
around.
mean Lydia Pearson?
Yes, Lydia Pearson. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Her mother. I thought her mother was endearing.
Yeah, she definitely was.
Her
I
mother-
mean, she
her
reminded me
mother-
of my mom, so of course I'm not gonna say anything bad about her.
Yeah.
Hi, mom, if you're listening. My mom doesn't
Well,
know
I mean,
what
I'll
a
try.
podcast is, so there's no way she's listening.
Well, good. Then I'm gonna trash your mom
Okay,
in a minute.
delightful.
So I mean, I think the fun thing about like Pepper Ann's mom was that like in the 3 episodes that I watched, like she called Pepper maybe once, but she always called her Peppy.
I didn't hear that.
And I thought that was fun because like I mean Pepper Ann really does have kind of like this like very enthusiastic kind of like outspoken attitude, and so like I thought it was endearing. I thought it was fun. Like it didn't seem like Pepper was so super excited
I would
about it all
imagine,
the
yeah.
time. She was kind of like mom, but I mean it was fun to see like her mom have that specific like mother-daughter dialogue.
Yeah, they definitely had a good
I thought that was-
relationship.
I thought that was-
Yeah.
I thought that was beautiful. I thought that was a lot of fun to watch.
Yeah. Was there anything else more from that episode? I know you probably only got partway through it before I derailed to Gamergate, but
Oh no! So it comes down to a showdown between Pepper and Milo, where they're duking it out, playing Crunch Pod. Matt, do you understand how the game Crunch Pod is played? It's like a weird hybrid of like two games.
Yeah,
that
I was gonna say it's kind of like Pac-Man. and
Yes,
yet, like,
yes.
Space Invaders. It's
Yes.
like-
I was gonna say
I was-
asteroids.
Yeah, I was like watching it and I was like, the shit is going on here? Like, what is the point of this game?
They're like, you gotta crunch it. I'm like, I don't know what that is.
I don't.
want it.
Is that like a sandwich or like what are we doing?
I really want to watch
Is that like
this
a
now.
bag? Is that a bag of
Ooh,
sandwiches? I
hold
don't
on.
know.
That's
I
what
want
you
it. I want
win.
to crunch them all.
That's what you win if you get a high score. You get a bag of sandwiches.
Yes. So the resolution of the episode is that Nikki actually unplugs both of the arcade games
That
and is
bitch.
just like, you two. She's not a bitch.
Oh, okay. Sorry,
She's
Nikki.
just like, you two are best friends and you need to act like best friends.
And that's when Turbo Teen shows up and starts playing the game as a car and beats everyone.
And just oddly humps the machine
Yeah, just
as a car
and everyone just clears out because that is an adult situation.
after having a slice of pizza thrown in his
Yep,
face.
that's the way it works in the real world.
Is it? Because I want to live in that world.
Yeah, let's
That
live in
sounds
Pizza
fun.
World. Ooh,
So,
Pizza World.
Was there you? So Dave, you managed to find, and we will say this:
Yeah.
episodes of Pepper
Yes.
Ann look like they are available on YouTube.
They
If
fake you out.
If you look for episodes of Pepper Ann, it looks like there are tons of episodes, and then you watch them, and because YouTube is in the process of revamping all of their copyright laws,
Especially with Disney being
for
the owners
everything.
of this one.
yes, and just how YouTube is moving towards this model where like you can now purchase things on YouTube for viewing. They are restricting all of this copyright content, which is just a pain in the fucking ass to be able to watch this shit. Because like we had to go to Dailymotion to be able to find
Hey,
a bunch
you
of
know where
episodes
I
of
went
Pepper
for
Ann.
this one? I went to frickin'
And
China.
You went to Tudu.
I don't even know what that is. I just know it was
TUDOU
covered in
is the name
Chinese
of it.
characters. Yeah.
TUDOU.com has a couple episodes, and so does Dailymotion. But they are sadly few and far between.
And I couldn't find them on
it
Amazon
sucks.
either. We usually try to give you guys links,
No.
to the
I-
seasons, A, so that you can help us fund the podcast, and B, so that you can, actually access the seasons on DVD if you want
I
to be
went on
legit. Yeah.
I went on Disney XD
Yeah.
to try to buy and find some episodes that were on there. Nothing.
No.
Like Disney Kids has nothing. Like this is a really challenging show to find, but it's I don't know. I wish that they would release it on DVD. The only thing that I found that was on Amazon was a novel version
Yeah.
of Pepper Ann episode.
It was really strange.
I
Was it
was
like the
like-
camping one? There was one like camping thing too.
Yeah.
I didn't know what that was. It was really odd.
I was like, I guess I'll buy it and then
And then
read a
return it.
book
Yeah.
for it? No?
I don't know.
Okay.
But see, this is what we do for you, dear listeners. We ferret this stuff out, and currently there are a team of Chinese hackers just destroying my computer from the inside out, unwinding my entire life for you. So that's fine. I watched Pepper Ann's first episode called Zitterella. I didn't really know what to expect with this one. I did get a heavy...
Really? You didn't know what to expect from an episode called Zitterella?
Let me rephrase. I knew what to expect as far as the plot goes. I didn't know what to
There
expect
you
as
go.
far as my reaction to it. Like, was I going to like it? Because I'd never watched the show. I wasn't even really that familiar with it. Just kind of like tangentially maybe familiar with it from 15 years ago. But I never watched it, so it was kind of cool. It was a refreshing thing where it was kind of like just go into it neutral and see how you come out of it. I really enjoyed it, actually. This one's, it's tough to talk about because normally when we talk about these shows, we just make fun of them, all the stupid shit that they do, stuff that doesn't make any sense, things that are just like so bizarre or so like just amateur hour. This was actually really well done. It was very much like we said, Doug and Hey Arnold. It was in the vein of those. So if you like those shows, you should check this one out. The long and
Yes.
short of Zitterella, as you can probably guess, it's the day before yearbook photos at Hazelnut Middle School, and Pepper Ann gets a zit right in the middle of her forehead. I love the way that they handled this because they show like this little red dot like at the bridge of her nose, and she freaks out over it. So you see it from her perspective where she turns into, like her entire body turns into this like molten volcano pit of a zit. And she's just like
God.
like mush on the side, and she's like still talking to her friends, and they're like, it's really not that bad, we can't even see it. And I just loved that. It's very subtle. Wow, maybe subtle's the wrong word when she's a giant fucking molten zit sitting on the side of the road. But the way that they show how like the adolescent mind over exaggerates and really hypes up the drama on things that aren't really that big of a deal once you've lived through them was just perfect. And they do that in a number of ways. Like at one point she gets made fun of because she goes to this kind of like rundown mall that nobody shops at. And only freaks and geezers, that's a quote from the show, only freaks and geezers shop at this mall. It's called Abe's Mall, but they call it the Abiz Mall, which, again, I thought was pretty clever.
Fun, very fun
stuff. And they bring in Abe Lincoln as like he's like this giant statue that stands outside the mall and is just pointing at the mall entrance. It's a hilarious just scene, just to picture it, because everybody's got that like hometown mall that's like run down, and there's just like weird like mall walkers that just like walk the perimeter of the mall early in the morning, and just crazy weird stuff like that.
Harrisburg East Mall, y'all.
Exactly. Palmer Park Mall in Eastern Pennsylvania.
Or York County Galleria.
See?
Yeah.
Oh, the Galleria. Yeah. Everybody's
Not
Galleria.
even a mall, Galleria.
Get
These
at
are
it.
all abysmals.
Yeah.
They're so bad.
Abysmal.
Dude.
I love it.
It's funny though, like they had, okay, so there were just like these weird little like bits of dialogue. They had a lot of fun. It was actually fairly clever writing. Now, if you remember the writers we talked about at the beginning, you can kind of understand the culture of the writing that they brought into this show. They had funny store names like John Wilkes Photo Booth, which was a little dark, but at the same time pretty hilarious. And then right across from that was the Emancipation Bargain Station, which I just thought was hysterical.
Christ on his throne.
And it was
That is
so good.
Awful.
Yeah, and there was
Those are so good.
they're so good, and there were a couple more that I couldn't quite catch, but like that level. So it wasn't like the plot or even the characters that made me laugh all that much. It was these weird little side things that they would just throw in, not for no reason, but like extraneous stuff. Like at one point, she's in the mall, and she's like, "Man, only freaks and geezers shop here," and this like super creepy dude in the background just walks by, and he's just like, "But I shop here too," and he just like walks off screen, and you never see him again.
Oh, a creeper.
Nobody knows who he is. It's
Creeper?
great. Yeah. So there's a lot of cool stuff like that they play with, and she has like, again, her daydreams and the fantasy reactions and stuff are like hyper exaggerated. You also get introduced to a lot of the other characters, maybe not by name, but just by kind of like what they do and their personality. So her mom, her aunt, her little cousin Moose, I think is her cousin, and definitely her friends too. So you get to see kind of everybody. I mean, they do a lot of cool stuff. Like I don't know, that one was just a fun one to watch. There's a lot of tropes. The principal was really good too.
Moose was her.
Was that her little sister?
Sister. It was
Okay.
her sister.
That's
The
her
younger
little sister.
sister.
Yeah.
Youngest sister.
And she's introduced by like just being crazy on a skateboard and just like flying all around. But yeah, the other supporting cast of characters are really good too. Like I said, the principal is pretty funny. At one point,
Yeah.
it's weird. The dialogue borders between the very childish and also the somewhat adult, and kind of like surprising when that happens. It kind of like takes you by surprise a little bit because you're not expecting it. At one point, like she feels like the whole world is just falling down around her, and she just like collapses into herself and just says, "My life is trash," and they just cut away. I was just like, wow, that's a little harsh, Pepper Ann. It's the first episode. You gotta settle down a little bit. But I really enjoyed it. I would recommend watching that first episode, only to just get like an idea of the show. And it's a 22-minute one, so you can see what it's like throughout the, when they get a full 22 minutes to work the plot out before they got cut down to 10. Yeah. Anything else from you guys on the show? The other shows? Yeah, other episodes.
I watched 2 other episodes. One that was about Halloween that I mentioned.
Right.
It was sort of like the conflict was whether or not she's too old
Right.
to go trick or treating. The 3rd episode that I watched was called Old Best Friend.
Okay.
And so
Oh, boy.
she makes this best friend at so we all know that there's like brownies in Girl Scouts. In Pepper Ann's universe, there is something that's called like Cubby Scouts.
Okay.
Which is like bears.
Okay.
And so she had befriended this girl at Cubby Camp, and this girl was moving to town, and she was very excited at the prospect of like reconnecting, and she was just like, she was telling Milo and Nikki, she's just like, we had such a great time, and we did all these like fun things, and like this was awesome, and like neither of you were there, but like we bonded over this experience. And we promised that, like, we would keep in touch and we do all these things. Like, did either of you go to camp?
No, I really wish I would have, but no, I never did.
Baron, did you go to camp?
Yeah, I served as a counselor at a Boy Scout camp for 4 months straight. Moved in 10, so
that's a
yeah.
mistake.
Yeah, you damn right it was.
I went to camp as a camper for a week, and
It explains so much.
It does. Not only does it explain so much about my outlook on life, but it also explains why I am very skeptical or reserved around other people.
Hey, Sean. Hey.
Yes.
If you don't eat when we tell you to eat, you're gonna die.
No, God. I went to a camp in Pennsylvania that was called Camp Shikellamy. This camp closed down the year after I went there for problems with their with like whoever came in for like camps and assessed like what their food sanitation issue was.
Yeah.
They closed down for that reason. And I distinctly remember that at one point they had served us chicken one night where the skin of the chicken breast was purple.
Oh.
And because we affectionately called it purple chicken.
Yeah.
It was probably one of the grossest things I've ever eaten. I have no idea how I managed to live and kind of, well, I mean, it's easy to live beyond food poisoning. Everybody's done it. So,
Sean, little known
strength
fact.
and honor, Sean.
Yeah, Sean actually went to Camp Krusty. That was the other name of this.
Yeah, I went to Camp Krusty.
Yeah, Camp Krusty.
So, but what happens is that her friend from camp moves like into her neighborhood. She reconnects with this friend, and then she realizes like, oh shit, I really don't have like beyond our camp friendship. Like I really have no interest in being friends with this person.
Exactly. I'll see you in the summer for a week, and that's it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And so like it was interesting to see like how she kind of dealt with it because again, like ultimately like I wouldn't say the conflict, but like like everything came to a head when she realized and kind of had one of those like fantasies where she's like, I just need to be honest with her and tell her that I don't want to hang out with her.
Yeah.
And
very
every
adult
time that she
way
was,
to handle it. Yeah.
every time, right? And every time she was confronted with like the idea of like now is an opportune time to be able to to tell her how I feel and say that like I don't want to be friends with her. She's like, oh, like she took the polite road where she's like, oh no, I'd love to hang out. Why don't you sleep over? Why don't you stay for dinner? Like, ooh, like it just. She progressively made it worse for herself by not being honest.
Yeah, and that's another thing that I think everybody can kind of relate to, too. I think that's just like a very common experience. But we're coming up on about an hour, so I want to make sure that we can get a chance to say whether or not we recommend this. And then we'll have to move on to some plugs and conclude this here episode, unfortunately.
Dave, are you recommending this?
Absolutely, yeah. How about you guys?
I absolutely recommend this. I mean, it's classic Saturday morning cartoons.
I definitely recommend this as well. I think for something that has like a strong female lead, that has a very relatable storyline regarding antics that would occur in middle school, I think that there were a lot of things that resonated with me even today, and I was like, this was a lot of fun to catch up. My only wish was that there were more episodes that were available to purchase and to be able to watch.
Yeah, that's the tough part, is actually finding them. But it's weird making the recommendation because it's like, it's just a good show. Like if you watched, if you watched Doug and Hey Arnold and liked those, I would definitely seek this one out. It's just, I don't recommend it for the same reason I recommend the other stuff, because it's batshit. I recommend it because it's good. So it's a little different. We're gonna move on to some plugs now. So I'm gonna let Sean, if you're ready, let people know where they can catch you and what you got coming up in the next couple of weeks.
Sure. I am going to be performing in Washington, D.C. on October 17th, 24th, and the 31st. All the shows are at 7:30. I'll be performing improv with a group called Nox. That's N-O-X exclamation point. We're going to be doing a Halloween-themed show, which this show is going to be completely performed in the dark.
Spooky.
So we're going to be performing at the DC Arts Center, and you can find tickets that are available at WashingtonImprovTheater.com.
Excellent. Matt, do you have anything coming up for the folks?
I have literally nothing going on.
Hey, you know what you got coming up right now? I'm going to give you a little bit of time to think about it because I forgot to tell you ahead of time. You got the next pick Mbare for episode 23.
No snap.
Yeah, so you better think about that while I do my plugs here. Get to researching.
I will tweet it. I actually recently spent a little time in Twitter headquarters this week, and I will tell you it is beautiful and immaculate, and I will disappoint all the people that work there by picking next week.
Okay, wait, by picking next week, you gonna tweet about it through Bag of Sandwiches?
Only after the fact.
Only after the fact. Okay, all right. Well, while you think about that one and let people know what we're
Dave,
gonna
what do you? Dave,
Oh,
what do you
Sean,
have
thank you so
going
much
on,
for
buddy?
asking. I'm so glad that somebody asked me a question. So we talked
All
about.
right. Well, moving right along. we're gonna
Oh
wrap the
man,
podcast
that's
up
only
right
fair
now.
because I do it to you guys all the time. That's only fair.
Stop
Oh
it.
boy.
You're so good.
Yeah, so we talked about a lot of the cool and well-known voice actors. I don't know why I said cool. We talked a lot about these voice actors that were on this show. A lot of famous ones, people, guys and gals that have been doing it for decades now. I just came across a voice acting documentary by producer, director, voice actor John DiMaggio, which you may not know his name, but you definitely know his voice.
Oh, definitely know.
Yeah, why don't you tell the folks at least one of the characters that he does? You know.
He does Bender.
Yeah, he does Bender. He does Bender from Futurama. He inserts girders. Hey, guess who else he does, Adventure Time fans?
He does Jake.
Yeah, Jake the dog. So there you go. Those are two very well-known characters that he does. He was actually, I got to see him, I think it was 2 years ago now at Comic-Con. It was just kind of this, I was in a side room, a smaller room, waiting for something else, and there just happened to be this presentation called I Know That Voice. It was John DiMaggio, and he was saying that they were more or less doing like a Kickstarter thing. He did a documentary with a bunch of different voice actors, and I mean, like, you recognize everybody in this. You either recognize the voice and their characters, or you recognize the person themselves, and it was awesome because they really do go behind the scenes. They show how much fun it is, but also how much work goes into it, and how difficult it's become to break into that industry, because all the celebrities now, you know, they've kind of like broken into it too, and they've kind of pushed the traditional voice actors a little bit to the side. It's very, very cool. It's a lot of fun to watch, especially if you're into the voice acting in cartoons, which, if you're listening to us, hopefully you are. It's called I Know That Voice, and you can check it out on Netflix for the price of free. Definitely do that too, because it's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
As for
definitely.
me, I've got some TV reviews that have been going on.
David,
yeah.
David, are you blogging about television?
Oh,
that's going
I'm
on right now?
teleblogging. That's the new thing
Do tell.
these days. Man, if you guys like, oh, I don't know, Gotham, The Flash,
Love it.
Arrow,
Love it.
yeah,
Love it.
Like The Walking Dead, if you've heard of that. I don't know if you guys have heard of that small show.
I actually stopped watching that
Hey,
one.
well, you should definitely come back because this season premiere was fucking awesome. Oh, and Constantine,
all
which
right.
is coming up next
Can't
week.
wait.
Next week. I review all those over at Collider.com, so you definitely come pay me a visit, do a little search, and you can see them on that website. That's all I got, Baron. We're going to go back to you real quick, and we're just going to check in on you. You're just going to tease people a little bit. Do you have a pick yet? Don't say it yet. Don't say it yet.
You know, I don't have a pick yet, but I'm going to tweet it in like maybe a day or two. But
A day or two? What is
I mean,
this? A day or two?
Jeez.
So you're not going to tell us what we're watching
You're
either?
killing
A day or
me,
two?
buddy.
We have a list. Listeners, we have a list of roughly 80 cartoon series that we're going to be watching over the next God knows how many weeks. A day or two? I'll give you another minute or two while I run down some contact info. If you're interested in learning more about us, you can head over to SaturdayMorningCartoons.com. Remember, that's morning with a U, because you complete me. Yes.
Oh, that is so good.
I'm still working on that.
oh god,
Why
that
have we
is
not
that
done
is
that
just
before?
Because I've been trying to pull
That
up
is
like random
priceless.
90s you statements. So you complete us. I guess you could say you complete us. Yeah, Saturday morning cartoons. You can also check out Sean's handiwork
Dude.
at our Tumblr page at SaturdayMorningCartoons.tumblr.com. Yeah, Baron, what you got? Okay. Twitter, you can follow us at Morning Tunes, where Baron may or may not reveal what we're going to be watching in the next week or so.
you know. Hey, you know what we're going to watch while Sean fake cries into his phone.
Oh my god.
We're going to watch Aeon Flux.
Is that your serious pick? Is that your
Oh!
actual pick? You jumping the gun?
That's my real actual pick.
You know, I'm glad that you
Oh,
picked that
fuck yeah,
because,
dude.
and this is my little aside. When we started talking about Daria and like the MTV cartoons, I started remembering like
Liquid television.
Liquid Television, like the Max, Aeon Flux. What was Alexander? That came on a little
The
later.
head.
And the head? Yeah, exactly. Don't worry, kids. We are going to talk about those because that is a whole nother trippy
Oh my
wing of
God.
cartoons. Crazy stuff. Meanwhile, back to contact info. If you want to email us your cartoon suggestions, or just be like, oh man, I totally remember this show, but I don't know the name of it, whatever you want, or just to say hi, be cool. Email us at SaturdayMorningCartoons@gmail.com. We are also on iTunes and Stitcher, so if you want to get your weekly dose of Saturday Morning Cartoons, you can find us on either podcast hosting place. That's pretty much all I got for this time around. It's been Pepper Ann. It's been a nice hour. I guess we're going to Eon Flux it up next week. We all cool with that?
I am so excited. I actually own the complete series of Aeon Flux.
Sweet. So Sean is going to upload all those episodes to YouTube for everyone to watch. He's got nothing.
Get ready to BitTorrent.
Good times. Wait, are we watching
Thank
the
you for
movie
sharing
too?
those.
Are we watching the movie too? No. Live action movie?
The one with
Charlize Theron? No, I was
Charlize
like,
Theron?
come on, I'm not making this up.
I've watched that.
Oh, I haven't seen it.
I have watched
I have
that.
not seen it, and I will not see it.
It is interesting.
It
I will
is
say that.
real bad. Oh boy. Okay, Eon Flux next time.
That is not a ringing endorsement, but I will say it is interesting.
This is going to be an interesting week. Very interesting couple of weeks. But that's it for us
Oh, boy.
on this episode. So we will see you next time on Saturday Morning Cartoons. Thanks for listening.
Take us out, Sean.
Dave, Baron, we ride!
Hello, and welcome to Saturday Morning Cartoons, the weekly podcast that revisits, reviews, and ridicules some of the world's weirdest animated series. Coming to you from Hazelnut Middle School, I'll be your host, Dave Trumbore. What I'm doing in middle school, I have no idea. Don't call the cops. Joining me, as always, he's Sean, too cool for 7th grade. Ellis, what's up, buddy?
David, I'm doing well. How about yourself?
Oh, doing just fine. And completing the trio tonight, it's Matt, 1 in a million. Baron, how are you, sir?
Oh, I'm doing very well myself, David.
All right, good to hear. Yeah, those little nicknames I gave out, I didn't have some like ridiculous ones to give you guys tonight, just because this show, it wasn't exactly ridiculous. Not in the ways that we're used to, anyway. It was pretty decent, and they had a lot of fun.
I'm going to venture to say that this show was incredibly grounded, as opposed to a lot of the shows that we have watched.
Yeah.
In previous episodes.
No, very, very different from anything we've watched before, I think. I think that goes without saying. Sean's actually going to walk us through, well, he's going to introduce the show that we're talking about, and he's going to walk us through some history.
We are going to be discussing oh gosh, I don't know. I have very fond memories of this show, so I'm rather nostalgic. I watched a lot of Pepper Ann, so we're going to be talking about Disney's Pepper Ann. This was an animated show by Sue Rose. It aired on ABC. It ran from September of 1997 until November of 2000. Interestingly enough, a lot of the episodes that they have of this were in like the 10 to like 11 minute range. So if you watched one 30-minute episode that they had blocked, you were going to get about maybe 2 episodes. They did have a couple episodes that spanned like the full 30 minutes or like the 22-minute block that was allotted, for commercials and everything else. But this was a Disney Saturday morning block, and the character originated from a comic strip that was published in YM magazine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't remember this one too much, but you have fond memories of it, yeah.
I do. I watched a lot of like Disney cartoons like during this time, and it was very. So I haven't watched the show since I probably watched it sometime during like the 97 to like 2000 era. I'm sure that it was in reruns after that. I'm positive that I watched them then. I just remember having very fond memories of watching this show, and it was a lot of fun. There are a ton of notable voice actors that are in this show. It is crazy.
It is pretty nuts.
How many people? I mean, I guess sometimes this is the power of Disney.
Definitely.
Recently on this, we have watched a show that came out in 1980, which was Thundarr the Barbarian, and so that was sort of the earliest show to date that we've watched on this podcast. this would probably be the latest show that we've watched,
Other
97 to
than
2000.
other than Liberty's Kids, which I think was in the 2000s, but that was kind of a
Oh.
one-off. Yeah, we won't be doing that again.
um, some of the people who were voice actors on this, Danny Cooksey, who a lot of people are like, I have no idea who Danny Cooksey is. He was on Different Strokes.
Yeah.
He was the redheaded um, character. He was the redheaded Caucasian kid that was on Different Strokes.
Couldn't miss him.
Much like you, Sean.
Yeah,
Yeah,
except the
And
being on
you know,
Different Strokes part. Yeah.
I will absolutely say that, and he was Sam McKinney on Different Strokes. I think that kind of I want to say that I watched a lot of this with my sister, like after school or like on Saturdays, and I think why it resonated was that probably to this point I had not seen like a redheaded character that was maybe like a lead.
I
like
had a
this.
feeling this was part of it, if not the major reason.
And so there was a good part of it that I was just like I easily identify with this because my sister and I are both redheads.
Yeah.
And so aside from Danny Cooksey, Pam Alden is on this show, and I don't know if you know who Pam Alden is. I love Pam Alden. She was on Lucky Louie, that was on HBO. She was on just so much. She's on the Louie that's on FXX. She has been on a ton of different stuff. She has kind of like a huskier, deeper women's voice, which is very attractive. And she played the character Moose. Trying to think other than that, what was it? Mark played him in a couple episodes.
You're cutting out a little bit. Did
oh
you say
boy,
Mark
I'm trying-
Hamill or did you say Maurice LaMarche? I wasn't sure who you said. You cut out a little bit.
I said Mark Hamill.
Yeah, he
Sorry.
did. But guess what? Both the guys
Mark-
are there,
Mark-
so either one you chose, you would have been correct.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Diedrich Bader, who people would remember, he was on the Drew Carey Show as well as Office Space. He was a character in there. James Avery,
Yeah.
Uncle Phil
There
from
he
The
is.
Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. Like, just, there are a ton. Brittany Murphy was Tank the Eighth Grader for a couple episodes. Luke Perry was on this show. There's so many different people. Alex Trebek played himself. So I mean, they managed to get a lot of like really interesting, noteworthy people to be voice actors and
Yeah,
actresses.
they got a lot of celebrities to kind of do like the cameo voices, sort of voice themselves. Also for the people that know
Right.
kind of like, well, also Don Adams. I had to mention Don Adams, the original Maxwell Smart from Get Smart, and he's
Yes, I
he's
feel
the
terrible.
principal in this one. And you can definitely like if you spent any time watching Get Smart, as soon as the principal comes on screen. And talks for the first time, you're just like Don Adams, 100%. It's really easy to pick out because he doesn't like disguise it. He doesn't do like a voice. He just does his voice.
Right.
But yeah, as far as other people that you might recognize, just their names from voice acting. There's Kath Soucie, who did a lot of the Nicktoons. I think she did a lot of the Rugrats and things like that. Jim Cummings is huge. He does so many different voices. Couch gag at the beginning of their billion episodes. I don't even know how many they've done by now.
Yes.
Yeah. So Pepper Ann has a similar one. In the first season, I think she always finds like a $5 bill or $5 under her desk. I guess as they went forward, they came up with different things for her to find. Did you guys watch any episodes where she found something other than a $5 bill? I only
Out of
saw
the
that.
out of the 3 episodes that I watched, I did not see a single $5 bill.
Oh, okay. So I saw that. I saw the original. She was just like, oh, hey, $5. And that's it. So I don't know what you guys saw. But she got $5.
No, I did not notice that.
Good times there. Are you feeling up for, I don't know, a little bit? Do you want like a shortened version of the Pepper Ann theme song? I was sending Sean some lyrics offline because I was making
Yeah,
fun of the show.
I would love to read through. So
Oh yes, please give us that.
So the theme song goes, "Who's that girl? What's her name? Is she cool? Is she lame? Oh, you're talking about what's her name? Pepper
Now,
Ann."
can I stop you right there? Because I
He's-
want to give
Yes.
the listeners. Okay, so Sean is doing just a very straightforward reading, a very scholarly application of this theme song, which is very much appreciated. What would you describe the tone of this music? This late '90s kind of like pop punk. How would you describe it? What band would you say jumps to mind when you hear this?
I think Save Ferris jumped into my
I don't know
mind.
that one,
Oh
so I'll
man.
go with it.
Minus like the horn section of Save Ferris. Like it was kind of was very joyful.
So it was like ska kind of minus the horns.
I
Yeah,
don't know
that's
what
what I'm
that
saying.
means. Scott minus the
So
horns. But yeah, it was just kind of
I
like
It
it
means
wasn't like
nothing.
aggressive, but it was just yeah, it was very energetic and just very. It was a little. There's a little bit of not screaming. I don't even know how to describe the vocals of this, but
well, because like it goes like, is she cool or who's that girl? What's her name? Is she cool? Is she lame? Oh, you're talking about what's her name? Pepper Ann. Like so, it was kind of punchy like
yeah, it was
with her
definitely
name,
punchy and
but
like punched up and energetic. But yeah,
yes.
so yeah, continue. I just wanted to give people a
Uh,
tone of how to listen to this. Yeah,
I was really hoping that they would have gone with a red.
this is on so many different things. Tara Strong, same thing with her. She just has a huge repertoire of different voices. And Rob Paulson, who we've talked about before too. So
oh, Rob Paulson.
yeah, good old Rob Paulson, good
His
stuff.
name is Robert
It
Paulson.
sure is, and forever will be.
Wonderful.
Yeah. So I also want to talk about I just want to name drop since we're doing that a couple of the actual writers of some of these shows. Some of them, they were like uncredited through the series because they were just starting their careers, or they only did like one episode or so. Nanachka Khan, she's known for American Dad and creating Don't Trust the Bee in Apartment 23. It's interesting that she got kind of her start with the Disney animation side of things. It's a weird start.
I'm gonna say right now,
Yeah.
based on the three shows that she's worked on, that's a hat trick. She's had a winning career in my
Yeah,
mind.
winning career. You can retire, Miss Khan. Scott M. Gimple, which people probably, it's not really a household name, but he's the current showrunner of AMC's The Walking Dead. So,
Yes.
yeah, your career can go many and varied places, from Pepper Ann Disney cartoon to showrunner of The Walking Dead. And also someone who most people probably know, Mo Rocca, apparently wrote for
I
this
was
show
gonna
too.
say,
Yeah,
thank you. Yeah.
that's a weird one.
If anybody is unfamiliar with him, he was a Daily Show correspondent
Right.
with Jon Stewart.
Yeah, exactly. So
So
that's pretty much it, I think, as far as the background. We're going to get into the show, Pepper Ann, a little bit. Baron is going to walk us through just exactly what the show is about.
Yeah, so the show centers on a particular character, Pepper Ann Pearson, who was a 12-year-old girl whose emotions basically come to life in fantasies, uh, which was kind of weird when I was watching it. I have to say it was a little disjointed, but basically the show's plots were generally typical of, somebody who's coming of age, and Pepper Ann is presented with basically dilemmas, ethical, moral, and she just figures it out.
Yeah, they had this kind of like gag too for most of the episodes. You know how The Simpsons have the